Hello, I'm Sarah Mikesell with the Poultry Site, and today I'd like to welcome you to our program today titled Chinese Cage-Free Egg Industry: Achievements and Progress. The cage-free egg market is expanding faster than ever as we approach the 2025 deadline that many international brands committed to source cage-free eggs. Being the largest egg producer in the world, China has demonstrated promising progress in standardizing and developing cage-free egg production. Today, we're going to hear from three speakers with experience in this area and who can give us an update on how cage-free production is progressing. Before we get started, one quick housekeeping item for everyone. Please add any questions to the chat box and we'll answer those during our Q&A session after our speakers have done their presentations. So let's get started. Our first speaker is Dr. Tsong-Song Lee. Dr. Lee earned her PhD at KU Leuven in Belgium and focused her research on the behavior and welfare of broiler breeders. She worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences in NYU Shanghai and gained experience in the welfare of dairy cows and farrowing sows, as well as meat consumption intention in rural China. At the beginning of March 2022, Dr. Lee joined IQC, where she is the Animal Welfare Program Manager in China. Welcome, Dr. Lee, and I will turn it over to you.
Hey. Thank you, Sarah, for your introduction. And I will share my screen. Okay. Everyone can see my screen, right? Okay. So good morning or evening, everyone. I am Tsong-Song Lee, the Animal Welfare Programming Manager of Integrated Quality Consulting, in short, IQC. So I'm very delighted to share some basic information of cage-free egg development in China. So first, I will give you a brief introduction of IQC. The IQC is a Sino-German management consulting company, provide mainly the consulting services of food safety, quality management, digital system, and sustainability to all stakeholders along the food supply chain. Starting from 2019, with the support of FEI, IQC started to work on the animal welfare projects. So at the very beginning, we cooperated with the transition from cage to cage-free systems for layers in China. So after that, IQC started to work on businesses related to animal welfare evaluation, consulting, strategic plan, and there is a big step in 2021. IQC became the China representative of human farm animal care and responsible for the animal welfare product certification, including the laying hens, broilers, pigs, and beef cattle. There will be more breeds in the future. And also, IQC will also do some animal welfare research and provide supply and demand information for the industry. And now let's look at some the egg production in China. There are some background data to understand the egg production in China. So here is the research done by China Agricultural University, Professor Yang Ning. And the top figure, he used the data of FAO. We can see that since 1988, China already produces the most egg production, in the world, and retained the leading place onwards. Currently, China's egg production and consumption represents more than 40% of the world's total production. When calculated by the Chinese population, we can see that almost 1 egg per Chinese per day. So for the egg industry structure, he found that more than 70% of the producers are small farmers with only with less than 10,000 birds per farm. But here we are more interested in the rearing system, for example, cage and cage-free systems. From the bottom figure, we can see that the x-axis stands for the different skills of the farm, and the y-axis stands for the production. We can see that the orange bar and the blue bar are cage systems, and they are the most used systems in China. So around only 10% of cage-free eggs, there are only 10% of layers that are using cage-free systems, and 90% of them are free range in woodlands or grassland or hillsides. This corresponding to the pasture raised in the Western world. But so you can see that there is very limited cage-free production in China. But when you go to the market, go to the egg section of the markets, you can find various forms of free-range eggs. I visited several markets in Beijing, where nearby the place I live. So there, I visited 6 markets, and there are 1 wet market, 2 small market, and 3 medium-sized markets. So I found that there are so many free-range eggs. It's very surprising. For example, this one, Chai chicken eggs. For the definition of Chai chicken eggs, you have to have there are 3 criteria. First, the breed of the chicken must be local Chai chicken. And second, the rearing system must be open field, free range, and the chicken should have enough space to walk around. And third, the chicken's feed cannot add any antibiotics or hormones. So it's kind of very difficult to call your eggs as Chai chicken eggs. But you can find a lot in the market right now. And Chai chicken eggs also refer to the local eggs or stupid eggs. Here you can see the package mentioned organic Chai chicken egg, and the chicken is reared on woodlands. This one is more interesting, the left picture. It said the chickens are raised in grassland and it's called strolling chicken egg. And the yellow package is even more interesting. It's called flying chicken and stupid chicken. So, and also some packages use images that the chickens are reared in open fields in a very nice nature. These or text or images are trying to give the consumers a feeling that the eggs are produced by free-range chickens. So I'm really interested. So I did this preliminary market research and I found out I only focus on the eggs that on the shelves. I calculated, and it's around 30% to even 100% of eggs in the market have the information referring to various forms of free range. So it's really surprising. So now let's look at the consumer perception of cage-free eggs in China. in recent years, there are two surveys that focused on the consumer perception. One is done by IQC and FEI in 2020, and another was done by Lever in 2021. We can see that there are a very high percentage of consumers that's aware the consumption of cage-free eggs, and most of them have a high willingness to buy the cage-free eggs and willing to pay a certain amount of premium. So now we can see that the market in China have a really accurate understanding of consumers' preference according to their packaging design. Here, I want to share an interesting phenomenon, but not very related to our cage-free topic, but it's very interesting to know. The top figure, it shows the shelves are filled with eggs, and the bottom figure shows that the eggs are all gone. It's because in the mid of April, there is a chance that Beijing might be locked down due to the COVID pandemic. So people had a panic and started to stock up foods. So when I go to the market, I saw, oh my God, the shelves are all empty. But there is one chicken product, egg product left on the shelf. This product has a marketing point, like 55% less cholesterol, high protein and psyllium enrichment, and this product is quite expensive. It costs 3.1 RMB per egg, and in the market, the normal price, the price for regular eggs are only 0.8. So it's quite interesting to see that in this pandemic panic situation, there's still some this one kind of egg left on the shelf. And next, let's see the retailer perception of cage-free eggs in China. So thanks to the efforts in promoting cage-free eggs in the Western world, globally, now more than 2,000 companies have pledged to 100% purchase cage-free eggs by 2025. This also including more than 50 companies in China. So based on that, Lever Foods did an estimation in 2021. They estimated that due to the commitment of these enterprises, the annual demand for cage-free eggs in China would increase by 1.15 billion pieces. So this only account 0.17% of Chinese total egg production, but this volume is already a big how to see it, is a big volume for the transition period of the cage to cage-free. Now, oh, sorry. For retailers, IQC and FEI also, the survey of IQC and FEI also surveyed retailers' perception about how do they think about the cage-free eggs the suppliers provided. So the majority of them hold a skeptical opinion about the authenticity of their suppliers' cage-free eggs. So this is corresponding to the preliminary market research that I did. So to build a reliable market chain is very important to better regulate the cage-free egg market. So in 2021, IQC had the authorization and support of HFAC and start the certification program of Certified Humane in China. And the egg laying hens was the first standards we started with. And we also let SGS and Intertek to do the independent audit as the third party. Currently, we already have some progresses. And for example, 6 egg-laying farms are already certified, with in total 19 million certified eggs in the last year. And in this year, it is expected to be doubled or tripled. So it's growing, but a little bit slow. Also due to the travel restriction in China, from the pandemic, the on-site audition was postponed. So hope it will go more smoothly in the future. And in addition, from the international standards, we also built the domestic cage-free standards. It was in 2021 October. It was also with the support of FEI and IQC and CAFA. China Chain Store Franchise Association launched the group standard for cage-free egg production. This is the first cage-free, the first evaluation guidelines of cage-free eggs production in China. We also designed this cage-free logo. Currently, we are working on the policy manual and the check-in list for the on-site inspection. So hopefully next year we will find eggs with this logo in the market. So besides this, China also have other certification bodies. For example, the promotion program is like the Good Egg Awards issued by CIWF and ICO. And ICO also organized the certification of 名特优星 products. If you want more information, you can contact me or contact them directly. So in the end, we all know that cage-free is a trend, must be a trend in China. It will increase, but we don't know how it will increase. It will in an S curve or in a fluctuating, increasing, rising trend. But currently, the transition from cage to cage-free is in an incubation period in China. The producer side, the production side are hesitating in entering the cage-free industry because we don't have enough reliable market data and concrete cost analysis in the Chinese context. We also have a limited technical support and a limited solid investment. And also it's a little bit difficult to find an appropriate or eye-driving marketing point for cage-free in China, because cage-free doesn't necessarily mean free range, right? So, and according to the current situation, Chinese consumers are more waiting to the free range. So we still need to make more efforts to do the consumer education. So by working on all those aspects, hopefully we can shorten the incubation period and promote the increasing rate of this transition. Okay, that's all the information that I want to share today. If you want more information, you can contact me by email or add me on WeChat. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Li. That was really interesting information across the entire value chain. kind of getting a sneak peek or a glance at where the entire value chain is at. So thanks again. Next, we have Murilo Quintiliano, a native Brazilian. Murilo has an animal sciences degree from São Paulo State University. Since then, he's been working towards a better farming environment alongside universities, research centers, private companies, and individuals. In 2008, Murilo joined FAI Farms, implementing its singular view of how to tackle the challenges of food production for beef cattle, broilers, laying hens, and fish. He is passionate about animal welfare and the benefits it brings to the economics, ethics, and environment of livestock production. Murilo, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Congratulations, Song Song, for the great presentation. I think this gives me the right cue to continue and to talk a little bit more about this journey that we've been together with several partners in China, most especially IQC, to try to drive progress. My name is Murilo Quintiliano. As Sarah said, I'm based in Brazil, but I had a chance to work very closely to many different markets, especially on the cage-free implementation, standardization, and also trying to making this more available worldwide. The experience showed me that the steps from making a decision to move from battery cages to cage-free to actually do that, making that happen, is not easy. There's a lot of different pieces, a lot of different players, but one thing is for sure necessary is people to really understand what cage-free means. And by understanding what cage-free means is necessary to have a specific set of standards and to acknowledge that it's not just because that the birds are out of the cage, it means necessarily that it's good. Several aspects of animal welfare sometimes are confused, where if you demonstrate a good environmental in a picture, or if you demonstrate that the birds are on open space, that is already an indication that is all right. And the experience and the practical experience show that that's not always the case. You can have bad welfare even with birds out of cages. That's why standardization, certification, and technical knowledge is very important on that case. So what I'm trying to demonstrate today is picking up on what Chong Chong said about the development of the standards, which I have the happiness to participate from the beginning in 2018, going to China, visiting farms, and try to identify what would be a good starting step so we can easily demonstrate to farmers on a very clear ways what does cage-free means, how they can, together with that, have a clearer view on the technicalities and the details on what it can be done in order to provide better welfare and a better environment and better production back when you decide to go to a cage-free production. This has developed, and IQC, together with CCFA and many other players, took this initial knowledge that we have applied successfully in some of the farms, we have tested it there, and could make it an official standard. And Song Song said, the first initial standard released in China. For me, which is a critical path, is that it's not just about animal welfare. When you are defining a standard, you need to have a basic essential provisions that every good standard must have. So it guarantees that the production systems goes in accordance to the basic and essential provisions of the country's rules. So hygienic standards for drinking water, feed hygiene standards, those are all basic stuffs that can guarantee that the birds are receiving the minimum that can provide better welfare. Because if you remember, they need to be a life worth living. We need to improve the quality of life, and that goes from what kind of resources you are providing to the animals back to how the people that are interacting with the animals are working. So for example, HACCP management is really important. So this is our basic stepping stone. So with that, you guarantee that those normatives are covered from the production system, and then you can move to the next steps. And in order to do that and to demonstrate that what we've been doing and the standard is really interesting, we have compiled and compared and benchmarked the Chinese standards with other relevant standards that are present all over the world. So we have compiled that into an interactive tool, which for everyone interested will be available very shortly for you all to play around and to see how it goes. I'll just give a little here demonstration on how it works and some interesting insights. So what you are seeing here are the key areas of the standards that are listed in here. And what those colors means is that we are comparing all these standards on those key areas with the CCFA standards. The green color means that it's equivalent. So if we're, for example, talking about antibiotics and growth promoters, RSPCA UK and CCFA standards are equivalent. When you see blue, it means that it's higher. What that means is that when we are talking about birds per hectares on outdoor range, FRIPA standards has a higher requirement than CCFA. The red color or light red color means that it's lower. For example, when we are talking about animal slaughter, laying hen slaughter, the Better 11 1 stars has a lower requirement than the CCFA standards. In a general picture, what this is showing us, and you can go through all the key areas, and I'll go into examples in a minute, that CCFA matches 50% of those listed standards. It's better than 35% of those listed standards, and only 10% has higher requirements than CCFA. The ones that are not covered, it means that the standards in here doesn't cover bird hectares or outdoor range, or doesn't fit to that. So there is no comparison. Doesn't mean that it's bad or not. It just means that it's not covered by the standard. And sometimes is interesting that even on this CCFA, for example, has a requirement on enrichment where it's mandatory the birds to have a dust bath, which is not necessarily the same. So I'll just go through some interesting points in here. So for example, when we see health, we can see that 93% of these key areas is covered by the CCFA standards, comparing that with all over the world. And 50% is equivalent, and it's better for 44%, and only 7% has higher standards. So when you go to flock inspections, for example, the only one that has higher standards is the RSPCA that asks for 3 times a day, where the CCFA standards requires 2 times a day of monitoring at least. When you go to worst ones, there are some of them that doesn't mention. So for example, EUA alternative system doesn't require or doesn't, FACTA doesn't mention the number of times the farmer should go. We can go around many other different activities. So if you go, for example, space requirement, working conditions, as you see, many of the standards, because they are very animal welfare focused, they are not mentioning working conditions, where the CCFA has a very specific line and standard saying that working conditions are important and must follow the regulations inside China. So this is a mandatory request. When we talk about environmental management, so manure management is not covered or has a lower kind of requirement than the CCFA. When even antibiotic stewardship, that is quite a challenge, it's mentioned and has very specific rules regarding what we can use, and how this should be monitored and also demonstrated to the individuals that want to apply the standards. So this is just a glimpse of how interesting it is that there is a misunderstanding or misconception that sometimes the markets are not preparing themselves to really be able to attain the expectations. So this demonstrates that this is not the case for China. China is preparing their standards, is preparing their farmers for the ones that are interested. Of course, there are other barriers, but it's a very interesting overview that it matches, or it is as good as of the most recognized standards all over the world that has been applied. Well, I'll leave you here for now. We'll keep you posted together with the video of this webinar when this tool will be available for you to play around, because then you can really go into the details of why it's better, why it's the same. So then you can get a glimpse of what is going on, and you also can select by country. So you can check the comparison from each country, the ones that are located in Asia as well. So you can compare different countries and different places and different standards. So thank you all very much. I'll pass to Sarah.
Thanks, Murillo. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. And I think this idea of understanding, everybody having kind of a clear understanding of what it means is so important. And it seems like it's going to be different by country. And in different parts of the world, it's going to mean different things. And we all need to be able to understand that. So that tool that you guys are putting together should be a really important tool for the industry. So very good. Well, thank you. Thanks again for all that information. Next up, we have Øystein Thorsen. He is CEO at FAI Farms. Øystein has 20 years of experience working for international organizations focused on community mobilization, agricultural trade policy, and humanitarian advocacy at the United Nations. Øystein has worked at FAI Farms since 2012 with many partners, including IKEA, Ferrero, KFC, and McDonald's. As CEO of FAI, he's responsible for strategy and new business development. Øystein, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you to Murillo and Zongtong for your presentations. So I wanted to share today some insights that we've gathered from a survey that we did along with IQC of a few leading producers of cage-free eggs in China. But first of all, just to kick off, as one of the hosts of the webinar, just a quick word about FAI. So we are a global consultancy and digital solutions provider, really focused and aimed at improving food system resilience around the world. And we work across agriculture, aquaculture, and the broader food chain. I'm not gonna. Songtong have given us a really good sort of background information of the state of the Chinese market, but I just wanted to before I dive into the details of the survey, just give you a couple of more contextual kind of stats. So when we talk about the global egg market, it's essentially comprised of 3 different production systems. We're talking about caged, barn or cage-free, and a variety of free-range, outdoor access or outdoor production systems. As we've heard from Songtong, the Chinese egg sector is the largest in the world. But what we're finding quite hard is to find accurate and differentiated market data, both from China, but also globally. So I just wanted to start with this slide here, which is from 2015, and it shows a pretty varied picture across the world. You can still see with the black bar, the cage production is the dominant one, but the free range and barn systems are really taking hold in a variety of different places around the world, especially in certain European countries. It is worth noting the changes that have happened just in the last 7 years. So in this stat here, the US is listed as a barn and free range in the 5 to 10%. And now that is over 25%. So we've seen quite a fast shift. In the EU and US, national and state legislations have played a key role in driving some of this change, along with company commitments, in part in response to civil society campaigning. And in China, on the other hand, there are no legislation restricting particular farming practices such as cage production. But as Murillo and Songtong have both talked about, there are new standards emerging and sort of providing clearer regulations and rules for alternative systems. So as more and more large companies are making commitments to transition to cage-free eggs, there is pressure for producers to operate at standards and meet those commitments. So in our 2020 market survey that Songtong referred to earlier, we reviewed publicly available online information, and we found that already then 31 companies claim to use cage-free eggs in China. Some of them are you can see they're represented on the slide. Compassion in World Farming have been tracking this change globally since 2016, looking at public disclosure from companies. In 2017, only 27% of US companies reported on their commitment. In 2020, that was up to 50%, and the number of companies reporting is growing all the time, now at 117 US companies. And in Europe, it's even higher. It's 82% are reporting progress. The progress on reporting has been pretty slow in China, as you can see from the graph. However, of the top Chinese egg production companies, almost half are already or in the process of supplying cage-free eggs to the market. And again, as was mentioned earlier, Lever Foods estimate the 1.15 billion cage-free eggs are needed to meet the commitments in the 2025-2030 commitments. So with that, let's get into the survey results. So together with IQC, we conducted structured interviews earlier this year. We focused on 4 certified humane certified cage-free producers. I'll mention in a minute that that's from a pool of there is a larger number, but we picked 4 to do a bit of a deep dive. Together, they're expected to raise 123,600 layers, producing 38 million eggs this year. These 4 producers represent 3.3% of that expected production number required by 2025 to 30, based on the commitments. In the last few years, FAI and IQC have conducted assessments of over 30 cage-free farms to get a deeper understanding of what current cage-free systems look like in China, and the assessment protocol that we've been using for that has also formed the baseline for the for the group standard that Murillo discussed. So it's really trying to reflect both best practice as well as status quo and where the industry is at. The farms that we've currently assessed represent 722,900 birds. And if anybody represents companies that have supply chains of cage-free eggs in China and would like us to assess their current supply chain, then please get in touch, and we have a process and procedure for that. The 4 companies that this survey is based on are marked on the map here with stars, just so you get a sense of where they're located. So if we start with sort of the size of these companies, some of them you'll see are fairly new entrants, so they have had a big growth in their cage-free production the last year, really, as you can see in producer A and producer B. Producer C is keeping a fairly steady level of production over the last couple of years. Same with producer D. So there's some that are really growing their production, and others are keeping fairly steady. So I'll just run through some of the key questions we asked them. First, where do you sell your cage-free eggs? And as you can see, from producer A, 30 to 50% goes to e-commerce, direct to consumer, as well as retailers, and it's labeled product, so it's labeled as cage-free. And one of the key concerns that are coming out of this survey is that even amongst leading producers, certified humane producers, quite a large number of eggs are not finding a specialized market and are being sold as normal eggs. You'll see a couple of different producers are mentioning Hong Kong as a key market for differentiated product, as well as exports to Singapore. Producer B, as a sort of recent transition to cage-free eggs, is reporting to sell all their products still as normal products and non-differentiated. And producer D has one large customer, Costco, taking half of their production in mainland China, and the rest to Hong Kong. So what's the cost and price of cage-free eggs? So on the cost of production, the producers are reporting slightly different numbers, but it lies in the area of 0.8 to just over 1 RMB. One producer reported is in percentage, so it's 20 to 25% above their own caged production. In the market, they're gaining difference in prices. Song Tong had more detail from her field research herself, but these producers are reporting Hong Kong prices between 1 and 1.2 RMB, e-commerce channels running higher, both for both what online retailers are buying the eggs for from the producers, but also what they're selling them for, as you see on the right here. Producer D is reporting Costco's prices, paying producers 1.1. And for reference, again, the normal egg price is around 0.5. What are the key challenges you face? A key one that was mentioned by all was the availability of markets, and especially for those newly transitioned producers, so finding those differentiated markets. Low consumer recognition of welfare labels and claims. Slow return on marketing differentiated products. So especially one of the producers have spent quite a bit of money on the marketing, and are hoping to see a return on that, but not immediate. And one issue that was raised, which is quite interesting, was the lack of markets to really utilize the spent hens as a potential premium product in China, due to its flavor profile, as well as the claims, the welfare claims of being cage-free. I just wanted to compare these results to that survey that we did in 2020, where we asked 73 respondents from 46 retailers, 12 catering enterprises, and 15 food and catering enterprises. So the sort of supply chain side, not the producers. And nearly 70% of them ranked the lack of standards and labels as the main challenge for cage-free in China, which is in part why we has been working on the group standard that Marilla discussed earlier. Other challenges that they highlighted was the high production costs, so lack of supply chain transparency, as well as the consumer awareness, which obviously resonates with the recent findings. Then what kind of support do they need? A really big one was better consumer and marketing communication. So how do we, how can we grow that awareness amongst producers, as well as identifying new markets, both for the cage-free eggs that are currently sold as normal, but also the spent hens that I mentioned earlier. Again, this is sort of backed up again with the 2020 survey, where we also asked about 1,000 Chinese consumers, and found that over half was not sure what cage-free meant, as Song Tong mentioned earlier. The last question I will cover is what do you anticipate to happen in the next 2 years, which is quite interesting. So as you can see here, producer A is very positive and proactive. They're adding 40,000 cage-free laying hens this year. They are on a fundraising kind of spree at the moment, securing a 200 to 300 million investment, which will also focus on the marketing piece, the challenge that they also raised, and are also looking at investing in processing, so moving beyond only the caged egg market into liquid and powder products. Producer C are a little more cautious, not convinced there'll be big differences in the immediate future, but hopeful that changes are on their way, and the market will be more secure and more mature within the next 5 years. And producer D is really putting their hopes towards the 2025 to 2030 commitments from large brands, hoping that will be a real game changer for producers. So just in conclusion, really, So the food and beverage industry might face a shortage in cage-free eggs if those commitments are to be realized compared to where production is now. Many cage-free eggs are still sold as normal tabled eggs. Producers need support with marketing as well as finding new buyers. So connecting producers with the brands that are making commitments is key, which is one of the key reasons why we host the annual Cage-Free Summit in Shanghai, is to bring the industry together and sort of be a sort of matchmaker between producers and brands. And then finally, producers are interested in exploring a variety of alternative markets. And I'd say in the sort of final leaving thought really is that there is an incoherence now between the supply and demand that need to be addressed. These four companies represent the sort of leading edge of Chinese cage-free production. And despite producing only 38 million eggs this year, almost half of that is sold as normal. And I would encourage every company operating in China with the cage-free egg commitment to help ensure the success of not just these, but of leading producers that are going out on a limb here, making sure that those early movers are successful. Believe that can be a powerful market signal to the next followers that are critical to meet that 1.5 billion cage-free egg demand needed by 2030. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Oystein. That was fascinating. It's so interesting to hear what producers have to say. I mean, that's the bottom line when it comes to it. So always interested in hearing that, especially as a writer and a reporter. So next we're going to transition to our Q&A part of the program. And so I'll ask these questions and then we can, the appropriate speaker can unmute and answer however you guys would, whoever wants to take these on. So our first question that came up is, according to the data presented, there is already an estimated 10% of eggs in a cage-free environment. So China is already well ahead of the needs, 0.17 as per your slide. Do you see more demand at retail in the future, and how to address the higher impact of cage-free production on the environment? Dr. Lee, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gu Wensen, for this question. Yeah, exactly. The cage-free eggs currently counts 10% of the whole production, but these are mostly free range, like I said, in the villages or rural areas, and the eggs are mostly digested by the nearby consumers. And it's really difficult for these producers to provide stable supplementation for the retailers. So, for retailers, it's still difficult to get stable supply from cage-free producers. And the exact number, I don't know. We need more research on that. About if there will be more demand at the retailer in the future, what I would say in the near future, it might be a little bit difficult, but in the far future, it is there will be definitely a higher demand at the retailer side. And this will also need the consumer side, that we need to put more efforts to for the consumer education. And this is the general trend. So in the far future, there will be more demand for sure. And how to address the environmental impact of cage-free. I assume you are referring to the more land needed for the cage-free system. that will bring more environmental impact. But I would like to see, we should see this question in a big picture, like the consumers, they should be educated to have a responsible protein consumption behavior. So if we can consume a less piece of beef, this problem, this higher impact of cage-free system on the environment will be simply compromised. So, so let's think about this way in a One Health vision to see this animal welfare improvement and the environment impact. Okay, thank you. If you
Dr.
have
Lee, I
other,
think the next question is for you as well. Our next question is, are any Chinese producers using aviaries or furnished cages?
Yes. There are right now some of our certified clients, they are using aviaries like the multi-tire system. Several of them are using it. And furnished cages, we don't certify any cage system for certified humane and also for the group standard. But I know that from a private communication, I know one very big egg producer in China, they did try furnished cages, but I don't know how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, at least one more question here for you, Dr. Lee. Based on the examples you gave about eggs sold at different markets, are Chinese consumers really willing to pay higher prices for certified cage-free eggs?
Yeah, this is a difficult question because for now we have very limited certified eggs are available in the market. As Øystein mentioned, some certified eggs are still selling as regular eggs because they are not well connected with the buyers. So we need more channels to connect the buyers and the producers. Actually, there are some producers, but retailers might not have the information. So we need, in the future, we need more communication to well build the cage-free egg market chain. Yeah, so for the willingness of consumers, like after we have a bigger market, then we will work on that problem. Okay.
Very good. And Murilo, there's not necessarily a question here for you, but a comment just talking about the fantastic standardization tool that you guys are developing. And one of the questions, this isn't a question there, but what's your timing, do you think, to release that? You said it will be made available soon, correct?
Yes, we hope it is to be ready to be released together with the video of this webinar. So it will be pretty much soon. So there will be a dedicated web page that people will be able to access not only the webinar, but other information related to the entire work that we are doing in China together with IQC, and the tool will be there available for people to navigate and also provide their comments if that's the case.
Okay, excellent, very good. Øystein, a quick question for you. You mentioned Producer A mostly sells their eggs in e-commerce. Can you explain how that works? I am glad that question was asked because I had that same exact thought when I saw that word. I thought, what does e-commerce exactly entail?
Yeah, my colleague Xiong have answered it in the chat as well. So it's online shopping, right? So it's delivery straight to home. Express delivery. Yeah.
Okay, that helps. So our next question is, what kind of responses are you getting from major producers like DQY, Sun Daily? The producers surveyed are rather small within the Chinese market.
Yeah. So this survey did not target those larger producers. So this was just focused on the sort of early certified humane producers. We do interact with the larger producers primarily through the conference, and we're seeing engagement from them, seeing engagement both around the science, around equipment use, interest in the results that we're having, as well as obviously market market intelligence and knowledge of where it's going. But as I mentioned earlier, we have an annual conference that is really focused on bringing the industry in China together around cage-free, and the next one is happening in October later this year. We're hoping that at least a portion of it will be face to face, with all COVID restrictions kind of pending. So.
Very good. And Øystein, that is an important, I think, comment to make here, is that what we're seeing today is a tiny snippet of the big conference, right? I mean, what else do you guys cover at the larger conference that's held in China?
So it's a forum for both bringing experiences from producers within China as well as international experience. So we typically have production companies from other countries, US, Brazil, Europe, etc., sharing their kind of transition stories, as well as Chinese producers. We bring latest scientific knowledge to the forum, so presentations by academics, sharing results from trials and what's going on the research side. We bring NGOs to the forum, so updates on their work, on campaigning, on sort of collaborations with industry. So sort of general, and then obviously the important kind of meet and greet matchmaking aspect that happens.
It always happens, right?
Yeah.
So very good. And one final question, either Øystein for you or Murillo, kind of what's next for FAI in your process of kind of helping to move this, helping to move forward, helping to move the industry forward? You've got the tool that Murillo has mentioned, and you guys are doing research. Will you continue to do research with Dr. Lee and her team, or what's next?
Yeah, Murillo, do you want to take that, or shall I?
You go ahead, Øystein. You go ahead.
So we will continue with the work as we've set out. A key focus at the moment is the group standard and moving that into implementation, having clear guidelines and sort of support mechanisms for more producers, more farmers to use that. We also continue to do farm assessments for companies that might not be ready for a full sort of standard audit, but want to see where they're at the moment. We provide assessment, which is also a good research tool to see where the industry is at. We'll continue with bringing people together through the conference, and we're looking at a few other mechanisms for really creating more buy-in from leading industry actors in China, which will likely involve more market research on key issues that the sector is interested in.
Very good. And Dr. Lee, I don't want to leave you out from that question. What are the next steps for your team?
The most important, as Øystein said, we will still promoting the cage-free group standards, as well as increasing our HFEC certification bodies as well. And my own interest, and also IQC and FAI's interest, I believe, is to do some research on the market side, because this is the most lack information to promote the cage-free cage to cage-free transition. Yeah.
Right. A bit of a gap in knowledge, it sounds like, needs to be filled in there, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I think we have answered all the questions. Murillo, did you have a comment?
No, I just want to compliment on that because I thought really interesting the question about the big producers in China and why there is not much connection with that. We believe we need to also to support those early adopters, those people that are really making the market. They are really putting themselves on the front line to promote and to take cage-free to the next level. We have seen in so many countries where those big conglomerates just come in, they have lots of money, and then when everything's ready, they invest a lot, and then the others starts losing the opportunity to fight for this market. So I think we need to create a balance over there. We want as many people adopting the cage-free as a business plan, but those early guys, those companies that are really starting from now, they need to be ahead, I think, and they need all the support that we can provide for them to achieve this goal.
Certainly, regardless of size, right? Sometimes it's some of the smaller to medium-sized operations that can make that happen probably a little easier than the larger operations. So very good. And you've certainly been at the forefront of this in Brazil, Murillo, so we appreciate your insight into that very much so. So I think we've answered all the questions that were in the box. Is there any that we've missed? Julia or Oystein, do you think I think we've captured everything, right? So again, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. This webinar, as mentioned earlier, will be posted on the FAI website. So we hope if you happen to join us mid conversation, you are welcome to go back and watch the entire piece or share it with others in your organization. So we also hope that you'll join us this fall for the annual Cage-Free Summit to be held in China in October, either, as Oystein said, partially in person, or hopefully part of it in person and part of it probably online. And at that point, as Oystein kind of mentioned, it's an opportunity to connect relevant stakeholders to celebrate industry achievements and address key challenges faced by producers, including market recognition and consumer communication. So we really appreciate everyone joining us today and hope you have a great week. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Bye.